What up, everybody? I'm glad to be back. It's been a long time since I've been on YouTube, besides a few brief appearances with Larry Kruger since last summer. I'm obviously my channel is not complete. I do plan to add banners and all the brand stuff that usually people have just to spice up the entire setup. But right now, that stuff isn't complete. I'm having my buddy Chris at Mr. Roscoe's do that stuff for me. So if you need any brand work, go to him. He's the best of the best. I thought I would just stream today to preview the Niners Rams game. It's obviously on Monday. It's been a while since I've been able to give my thoughts on the entire 49ers season thus far, besides Twitter. I prefer doing it in this medium anyway because the character limit on Twitter makes it difficult for somebody who's not concise like myself. I need the extended platform to be able to have the runway to just keep talking and talking and talking, which, I tend to do at times. But yeah, so I wanted to just take this time to preview the game, and I know there's going to be a lot of questions, so I want to answer a lot of those questions today. This is a new attempt at doing a show by myself. I've been reluctant to do it in the past, but I'm gonna test this out and see how it goes. I plan to stream probably 2 to 3 times a week. So I'm gonna be giving you as much Niners centric content as possible. It's not gonna be as much the entire NFL. This channel will be Niners driven. So without further ado, it's good to see a lot of you guys back. Yeah, it's been a long time. Amin the Dream, what's up, buddy? Go subscribe to Amin the Dream. He does great stuff. Mariah, it's an old the goat, one of the nicest people around. My man Jamal Armstrong, the best in the business as well. Definitely go follow him on Twitter. But I thought I'd start off by previewing the Niners Rams game. I think the Niners are going to beat the Rams. I think the Rams are actually playing better football at the moment than the 49ers, but I think there's a massive talent discrepancy that's going to give the Rams some issues. First of all, last year they couldn't block the 49ers front with even with Andrew Whitworth. And without Whitworth, I know Brian Allen is hurt. I think David Edwards is hurt. Obviously, Joe Noteboom has played pretty well the last 2 games, even though he was struggling the first game. But I just, even with if Eric Armstead doesn't play, we'll see what the situation is with Kinlaw's knee. I don't see how they can block the 49ers. And I think that's an issue because obviously the Niners have one of the best back sevens in the NFL. They play a lot of zone right. They've started playing more man. They've got a safety who looks like a superstar in Talanoa Hufanga. But the thing with the Niners defense is that you have to force them to rush more than 4 because it's very difficult when they drop 7. Fred Warner is unbelievable in coverage. He eliminates routes so quickly. And so all of those things, right, make it very difficult for a Rams offense without a real secondary weapon outside of Cooper Kupp. They've been struggling to run the ball. I know McVay found a little bit of a run game going versus Atlanta and then a little bit versus Arizona. I don't respect both of those defenses. Those defenses aren't the 49ers defense to me. The Niners defense has eaten the Rams run game for lunch ever since Todd Gurley left. Since about 2019, they've been all over how they're going to fit the run game. It doesn't look good for me. I know that they've got the Ben Skoranek fullback angle going. I think it's a cool little trick. McVay's a genius, but really at the end of the day, I don't expect Ben Skoranek to really be making much of an impact. So I think the Rams offense is really going to struggle versus the 49ers defense. And that's why I think the 49ers are going to win the game. It's really that. Like, I don't expect the Niners offense to have that much success. The Rams defense knows how to play against this run game. They still have a really, really good front, even without my man Von Miller, who I feel I still wanted the Niners to get Von Miller this offseason. Not to rehash that. I'm still a little salty about it. But they still have a really good front. Bobby Wagner, obviously, he knows the Niners run game and he will trigger run versus pass very quickly. They have been blitzing Bobby Wagner a lot more as well. I think it's kind of like a secret where like Raheem Morris is like, well, Bobby Wagner is not the same player he once was in coverage. I think we can acknowledge that, but I think they're blitzing him more because of that rather than to utilize him as a blitzer. It's my suspicion, just my guess is that's just the way I see it. And then obviously it's versus the Rams. Deebo Samuel is going to have a big game. He hasn't had that big game this season. I thought last week versus the Broncos should have been that big game. Unfortunately, circumstance let him down, but that was a very, very, very disorganized, discombobulated delivery of my thoughts. I promise to be better on it next time. I'm still growing. This is the first time I'm doing this by myself, but those are the reasons why I think the 49ers are going to beat the Rams. So I think the chat's kind of rolling. So I can go ahead and take a lot of questions now. I just wanted to be brief, but first things first, my man Jesse, what's up? Appreciate you. Make sure you subscribe. Last Second Sports. Jesse is one of the best, as everybody should know. Actually, I think Jesse's a lot more popular than me these days. So I think more people know Jesse than me. But the one thing I will also say is that he's also one of the nicest and most supportive people out there. I think that doesn't get talked about enough with Jesse. He supports every single content creator out there. So make sure you support Jesse as well if you're not already. And then I can take questions. So if you got football specific questions, if you have questions about where I've been, if you've got questions about what the outlook of the channel is, I can answer anything and everything. So I know this is going to be the popular question. So I think I can go ahead and address this right now. There's nothing personally on my end going on between me and Grant. I think he can speak on it if he wants to. I don't have any animosity or anything towards Grant. I respect the hell out of him. I appreciate everything he's done for me in terms of giving me a platform. I still remain a kid in my bedroom, but at the time I started as a kid in my parents' my childhood bedroom in my parents' house, and he gave me an opportunity. And I'm really thankful for the show that we did together. I mean, if you look at the numbers, we were the biggest 49ers show in terms of weekly content. I'm really proud of doing that with Grant, and I really enjoyed doing it. And I forever respect Grant. I forever appreciate him. I forever enjoy his content. For me personally, the reason I'm going by myself solo is more so about an opportunity to be able to get some value in return for my content. It's difficult to put some time into it when you're not getting any return, and you're putting up numbers, but it's hard to not be compensated for your time, basically. And so for me, I'm just honestly looking as for an opportunity with my content to try and grow myself and have value for myself and the content I bring. Not that anybody didn't value it. I'm not trying to say anything like that. It's just more of a personal journey for me of growth where I'm trying to focus on my own content. But in terms of me and Grant, I don't have anything against him personally, and I won't say a bad word about him. In fact, I'm very proud of what we did together. Or I'm very, excuse me, I'm sorry, I blanked out, but I'm very proud of what we did together. We did numbers that I'm very proud of. We were I think we were the biggest 49ers show in terms of content, in terms of YouTube numbers. The numbers say that. So I really appreciate every single one of you who have asked me about this. I've gotten a million DMs about it. I just wanted to address it right there. And make sure you're watching Grant's content too, because it's fantastic. And then yeah, so what happened to Blake? he and I were enjoyed doing the channel together. We really loved doing it. He's one of my best friends, so I really enjoyed doing the content with him. I think it just became a little bit hard during our senior years of college to be able to do it. Sometimes it became a little bit like, well, we have to do this. And for me, this isn't my profession. So the most important thing, and I think Blake is the same way, I can't speak for him though. The most important thing for me is that I love football. Like I like watching football. I like analyzing football. It's all just a pure love for me. There's an innocence to it where if I feel like I have to stream, if I feel like I need to do something, I feel like I lose that enjoyment. And as long as I stream, as long as I watch football, for me, it's not my profession. It's not my what my livelihood is built on. It's purely out of the fact that it gives me joy. And so that's really what we're looking for. And so that's kind of why we stopped streaming for a little bit. And then Blake is a busy guy. He's got his own life going on, and he can no longer really fit this within his schedule. And I think he also didn't want to do it anymore. And I totally respect that. There was also a time I didn't want to do this anymore. I slowly have only gotten back into thinking about doing it the last week since the season has started. So that's kind of what happened. But I really enjoyed the 2 years that we did it together, especially during the COVID times, being stuck in our houses and stuff. It was really, really fun. And I appreciate the support that all of you gave us. You have no idea how much that meant to all of us. I mean, we were really just two kids in our childhood bedrooms, street talking into a camera, and you guys made a dream real for us. So we really appreciate that. Tony, really appreciate the donation. If I was the 49ers GM, what is the move that I would make before the trade deadline to improve the team? And I think a lot of people are wondering this, like, what move can you make? Honestly, I don't think there's really a move that the 49ers need to make in terms of bringing in someone else. If there's one move I would make, I would re-sign Emmanuel Mosley. But this doesn't need to exactly happen before the trade deadline. So but if there's one move, if I'm the 49ers GM, that I would make right now, it would be to improve the team before the trade deadline. It would be just to re-sign Emmanuel Mosley. I think that makes the team better in the long term. I have a sneaking suspicion that Emmanuel Mosley is going to demand a lot of money this free agency. He's playing like one of the better corners in the NFL, and he brings starting experience, and he's a very, very good player. So and because of that, so I have two theories on this, and you guys can tell me what you think of it. And here we go. The first things first is I don't think Mosley's going to sign because he knows he's going to get a lot of money in the market. I think the Niners counter to that is basically I think Mosley and Ward are going to start this year. The Niners paid Mooney Ward a lot of money, so Mooney Ward is the starting corner of the future. I think with Jason Verrett, I think what they're going to do is they're just going to have him rehab this season, get himself healthy, and then next year, if they're unable to re-sign Emmanuel Mosley, they'll re-sign Jason Verrett to another one-year deal. Nobody's going to really take that risk. He hasn't played. He's coming off another ACL now to go with, obviously, the Achilles injuries he's had in the past. Then it worked for the Niners once in 2020 when Jason Verrett once again played like a top 10 corner. And so that would be my guess on what happens with that situation long-term, because Ambry Thomas, his play has been – it's not been something you can definitely look at and say, well, if we're unable to re-sign Emmanuel Mosley, which right now, 3 weeks into the NFL season, looks like a real possibility because Mosley will make $8 to $10 million somewhere, I think, with the way he's playing right now. He's been outstanding. And so because of that, that would be my guess on how that situation plays out. And that would be the move I would try and make before the trade deadline if I'm the GM. I would re-sign Emmanuel Mosley. So appreciate the donation, Tony. Thank you. Somebody asked me. So, Brad, you're asking me if I've ever gone to Levi's for a game. Plan on going this season. I do not plan on going to a game this season. Unfortunately, Brad, I have been to a game at Levi's, and I apologize to all of you because I think I was the jinx and the cause of why this happened. I went to the infamous Colt McCoy game at Levi's last year. So it was I think I was the bad luck, but it was a brutal experience to take that trip all the way down there. Levi's is cool. The people out in California are obviously very, very cool. I wasn't the biggest fan of California. I guess maybe I'm more used to the Midwest, but maybe if I spent a more extended period out there, I could have a greater appreciation for the things that people in California appreciate because they swear by the state of California that it's the best place to live. But yeah, I do not plan to go this season because I fear that it was my bad luck that caused that loss. And then my theory was later reaffirmed when I went to week one, in Chicago, and I sat in that monsoon to watch that disgusting loss. So I think that I'm going to take a break from going to Niners games. I don't think I bring good juju for our team. My buddy Jamal Armstrong, one of the nicest people out here. He does content, by the way. He goes on Niner Nate's nonsense. Shout out to Niner Nate. He's fantastic as well. So you should definitely follow him on Twitter. And he says, glad to have you back, brother. You're going places. Keep it up. Happy for your success. Excited to see where this takes you. Thank you so much, Jamal. I really appreciate it. You're too nice of a guy. Where do I live now? So I live in Illinois still. I live in a suburb north of Chicago by maybe 40 minutes because I work near the Wisconsin Illinois border. But yeah, I still live in Illinois. So I think this is a great question. What's the outlook of the season if we lose Monday? I still think the outlook of the season is still positive, right? They would still be 1-1 in the division. I think having two losses in the NFC wouldn't be great, but I don't believe in the NFC in general as a conference right now. I picked Green Bay to win the NFC before the season because I thought this was the most diverse Packers team I'd seen. So far they haven't lived up to that billing. I know that people want to talk about the weapons, but I thought the Packers took a very Patriots approach this offseason. Very deep secondary, deep defensive line. Obviously, Rashawn Gary and Kenny Clark are two of the best players in the NFL at their positions. So I thought because the defense was so good, I thought Green Bay would win. They don't look like a team that's going to win the NFC right now. Tampa Bay, I have real questions about their offensive line. It's not going to look that bad in their schedule, but you got to play San Francisco. You have to play the Rams in the playoffs. You have to play Green Bay. Kenny Clark and Rashawn Gary, just mentioned them. They're menaces. So I don't know if they can really, really protect Tom Brady. And so because of that, I have questions about Green Bay. I have questions about Tampa Bay. I have questions about the Rams. I mentioned them in the first earlier segment. So I don't see there being like a skies falling type of outlook. I still think the season's very much alive. There's 17 weeks in the season. You even if you're 1-3, you go back to 3-3 once you beat Atlanta, once you beat Carolina, two teams that the Niners should beat. I still look at this defense and say when Jimmy Ward comes back, it will be the best defense in the NFL. I think Shanahan will figure this offense out. He usually does. Deebo Samuel is still special. George Kittle is George Kittle. I think that they can cover up for the loss of Trent Williams, especially since he's not out for the year, and he will come back eventually, which is huge. I think a lot of people are ready to say the season would be bleak, and I think it's because of the excitement and the expectations we had coming into the season. But if you ask me next week and you say, well, the Niners lost, is their season over? I would say absolutely not. Someone said Levi Stadium is terrible. Definitely compared to the other stadiums I've been to, I would say it's on the lower side. I've only been to 4 stadiums, but I mean, Jerry World was unreal. I cannot compare Levi stadiums to that. I'm sorry. Um, and then Soldier Field. So Levi Stadium is a better stadium than Soldier Field, but Soldier Field has an incredible vibe. It has a history. Bears fans really bring it, even when it's cold outside. You know, you get into the second half, the Miller Lights are really starting to roll in, and they start getting crazy. There's a vibe to it. I didn't feel that type of vibe from Levi's, though I've heard Levi's for a night game is like different. And then the one thing that kind of pissed me off about Levi's, because it's a very, very minor thing, but like I guess I'm just complaining. But the stadium is so weird in the sense that I sat in one section and I was like freezing, like I needed to wear a jacket, like it was cold. And then I went two sections over where the sun was, and it's like hot. Like I needed to take off my jackets. I was just good in a jersey. Like I couldn't have any sleeves. And that entire like experience was kind of like a head trip, because like I'd rather just sit in one constant temperature that's, either not too cold or not too hot. I know I'm complaining. I sound like, Goldilocks right here, but that's my take on Levi's. And I appreciate that a lot, Amin. I appreciate every single one of you that supports me. It's really nice to have this much support from each and every one of you. And I actually love the interaction with all of you. It's what makes this fun. Sleepy Roan at 411414 asks, if we make the playoffs this year, do we ever move off of Jimmy? I say yeah, absolutely. They're moving off of Jimmy likely this offseason, right? And I think that no matter what, I thought the last week's game was actually the perfect game to explain this. It's unfortunate that the 49ers, lost on Sunday Night Football to Russell Wilson. Always a terrible feeling to lose to Russell Wilson, but last weekend, showed why they wanted to move off of Jimmy Garoppolo in the first place, right? We saw the mistakes. Those are mistakes that we see every time. We saw the inability to capitalize on everything Shanahan schemes up. And so no matter what, I don't think there's a guarantee that like Trey Lance will just walk in and be handed the job next year. I do think that there's an opportunity where they could bring another veteran quarterback to maybe who's not going to compete with Trey Lance, but maybe, be like hedging of the bet in case Trey Lance isn't, has growing pains, whatever, you have something to fall back on, or Trey Lance gets injured again. But I do think that it won't be Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo wants to be here playing this game anymore. He's got other opportunities where he could go back and play. I just think that it's over no matter what happens this year. I don't even know if a Super Bowl would be enough. It just feels like we understand this doesn't work. And I think like we can say Super Bowl. I think we know at the end of the day that there's a real ceiling, and we can dream of Super Bowl, but the odds are that it's going to be tough to do that with Garoppolo at quarterback. Big Dez asked the question of the season. Am I still a big Shanahan guy? And I know that he's getting a lot of hate right now. I'm absolutely still a big Shanahan guy. I think that he's not a perfect coach. I don't disagree with what people describe his flaws to be. I just find his strengths to kind of compensate for his flaws. I know that Shanahan is a poor in-game decision maker at times. He's exceptionally conservative at times. His fourth down decision making is bizarre. I'm still confused why he went for that 4th and 9 in week 2, and then came out in the press conference and then talked about analytics, and then there were 3 different down and distances that analytically going forward on 4th down would have been the correct decision against Denver on Sunday night, and he refused to go for it. So I acknowledge all those flaws within Shanahan. Absolutely. He is not a perfect coach, but does that mean that I still don't think he's a very good coach? Yeah, I think that his strengths are phenomenal. He is one of the best developer of coaches in the NFL. He's able to constantly turn over his staff by promoting within. He promotes minority coaches within, which I think is a phenomenal thing. We don't see enough coaches do that. He has, he gives them coordinator, assistant head coach opportunities, whether it's DeMeco Ryans, Robert Saleh, John Embry was the assistant head coach. Now it's Anthony Lynn. So he does those things exceptionally well. We've seen the number of coaches. They're always a well-coached team under Kyle Shanahan. Part of being a head coach is being able to deliver your philosophy and being able to convey it to your other coaches and have them fulfill what you envision your team to be. And then 49ers do a phenomenal job of that. I mean, look at Robert Saleh's defense right now. I know Jeff Ulbrich calls their defense, but that doesn't look like the defense that it was in San Francisco. Now, it's not the same talent. I'm not comparing it statistically. I'm talking about the mistakes. The 49ers defense rarely made mistakes under Robert Saleh. There would be rare assignment busts, except for, the one game Tarvarius Moore really had a tough time against Buffalo. that Monday night during the pandemic, like the Niners defense was usually on top of its assignment. So like you see stuff like that, that's where the Niners are very organized. And I appreciate Shanahan for those things. And now we will see where his career ends up, because at the end of the day, results have to be uh, provided on the field. There has to be evidence, but I still believe in Shanahan as a coach. What's up, Jesse? Good to see you again. Bigger concern, O line or interior D line? I'm gonna go with the O line. I've been exceptionally impressed with how Kevin Givens has played this year. I think he's been kind of the unheralded guy this year because there's been so much drama surrounding the quarterbacks and surrounding Shanahan. That's we haven't really been able to talk about like who's really playing well on this team. Well, I think Kevin Givens is playing really well. I'm My main concern with the O line is really Colton McKivitz. It's really not having Trent Williams. I've actually been kind of impressed with both Burford and Banks. I think they've played pretty well, better than I expected, to be honest. And then Jake Brendel is a little bit of a work in progress. I'm hoping that progresses, but I'm nervous about Colton McKivitz. I think that the Niners, they rely so much on their offense on Debo Samuel, George Kittle, and Trent Williams. So much of their run game relies upon the unique skill sets of those three players. Kittle is a blocker. Williams' ability to be so athletic, and you can kind of have him reach and move and block people on the second level that other offensive linemen can't get. And then obviously Debo is so special with the ball in his hands. He can run. You can run like proper run plays, like running back run plays, and he'll run them like a running back. And then obviously he's a phenomenal receiver. And then of course he's the best screen pass, yards after the catch guy in the NFL. So because of all those things, I think not having Trent Williams makes me much more nervous about the offensive line than it does about the defensive line without Armstead and Kinlaw. Bad acid trip. Nice, with the ones instead of the eyes. I like it. Who do you think will lead the team in rushing this season now that Mitchell's out? I think it'll be Debo. I think Debo's the only guy that's going to get consistent carries throughout the season if he remains healthy, right? Because Mason could have a couple good weeks. Maybe it's Jeff Wilson, actually. I don't know, but once Mitchell comes back, does Jeff Wilson's usage dissipate tremendously? We'll see. But I would probably go Debo. Yeah, I mean, how do the 49ers attack the Rams defense if so they're going to play that penny front. It's the same front that the Broncos played. It's the Vic Fangio front that it's basically like a 3-3-5, or excuse me, or it kind of just holds up where you have 3 technique, 5 technique, and then it's kind of like a 5-1 front. They got to throw the ball on the outside. I just completely botched my explanation of that. Either way, cut that. They got to throw the ball on the outside, and they got to be aggressive throwing the ball on first down. The Rams are going to play the run. They're going to play Debo Samuel. They're going to continue to rotate. They rotated down to one Robert how many times in the NFC Championship game, and they're going to rotate their safeties late. They're going to play their safeties coming downhill, play a lot of quarters. Jalen Ramsey's probably going to play nickel a lot in this game, or he's going to follow Debo. We'll see which one of the two happens. But they're going to have to throw the ball, and they're going to have to throw the ball on first down. So, yeah, I think the 49ers will have more sacks. I think Shanahan will have more answers for the Rams and for Jimmy to get the ball out of his hands on time and on rhythm than McVay will for Stafford, especially because you can put that on Stafford, where you can put him in empty and say, deal with the protection, right? If the extra guy rushes, you're on him. And Stafford has such a good ability to move in the pocket, keep his eyes down the field, and stay in a position to throw where if he sees something come open late, he can push the ball 10, 12 yards, 20 yards down the field with people around him. He does a phenomenal job of that. Now, that can also lead to mistakes, but that's what makes Matthew Stafford, in my opinion, a very good quarterback. So if you ask me who's going to have more sacks, I think it will be the Rams because they're going to put more of the pass game on their quarterback. We'll see, though. They haven't done that the last 2 weeks. That's been their plan against the Niners the last three games. So, but I think that the 49ers will have more sacks. What is my record prediction with Jimmy G as QB1? I'd have to look at the schedule. They're 1-2 right now. I think Kansas City is a tough game for them. I don't know if they win that game, though I do think they'll have success stopping that offense, especially when Jimmy Ward comes back without Tyreek Hill. I think it's an offense they can match up well with, but it's still Mahomes. I think Kansas City's defense will give this offense a lot of trouble as well. So that's the reason I would not pick them. I still think they could go 12-5, 11-6. I think that's still a real possibility. We'll have to see how they play Arizona this year. That'll be the big question. Arizona is not a very good football team. The 49ers have not played Arizona very well the last 2 years. So we'll see that. John V, what's up? Longtime interactor with me on YouTube. Kinlaw in this knee situation seems alarming. We feared that. Do we know it's not? Do we know if it's serious? Also, do we move off Kinlaw if he's not available throughout the season? Well, there's no reason to move off of Kinlaw at this point. When he plays, he's a net positive player. He impacts the game. He's terrific against the run. His size is menacing. He is first of all, here's something that nobody's going to talk about with Javon Kinlaw, that he's actually one of the better players in the NFL. Diagnosing screens, being able to hug the running back coming out, being able to recognize, oh, it's a screen, that's why they're letting me in, and being able to move to run down the screen, being able to get his hands up in the passing lane and have a great feel for when the quarterback's going to release the ball. He's pretty instinctive. His pass rushing is still a work in progress, but he does all these other things really well to show awareness while he's rushing the passer. So those are things that people never talk about with Javon Kinlaw, but he does those little things exceptionally well. He's cost controlled still. So even if he misses this season, you still have that fourth year of Javon Kinlaw on his cost controlled rookie contract. There's absolutely zero reason to move off of him. The knee situation, it's a little bit alarming because that was the fear coming out of college, right? If you watched Javon Kinlaw at South Carolina, especially if you watched how he played against Alabama, how he played against Georgia, I think most people would agree that looked like a top 10 player in the draft that year. And that was a really good draft. That was a COVID year. Javon Kinlaw was special. He dominated the Senior Bowl one-on-ones. He dominated. You add the fact that there aren't a lot of people that are 6'5", 325 that move like Javon Kinlaw. So the knee was the reason the 49ers were able to draft him in the first place. It was a lingering issue his rookie season, which culminated with him officially getting hurt at Dallas. Then he rehabbed it the entire offseason. They were excited about it, whatever. He had the cleanup. Nothing seemed to get right. He wasn't coming back. So then they decided to have the ACL surgery for Javon Kinlaw. And then finally, it's culminated with him then rehabbing from the ACL, coming back. This season, again, he was in and out, but he did practice. He's played consistently so far through 2 weeks, and now it looks like it's bothering him again. They were saying degenerative knee type stuff. That was fearing teams before he got drafted. If that's actually the case, I don't know. I'm not. First of all, I'm not a medical practitioner, so I wouldn't be able to tell anybody anything. Second of all, I don't have any access to medical information about Javon Kinlaw's knee. All I know is that it looks alarming from the pattern of things that have happened and given the information that we were provided before the draft about Javon Kinlaw and his knee. Yeah, I've seen the Jalen Hurts. I threw out a funny thing on Twitter actually a year ago because I've been a little bit of a Jalen Hurts doubter. I will gladly eat my crow. Jalen Hurts is improving at a tremendous rate. He's definitely proving a lot of people wrong. And I said last year, because Trey Lance was a much more polished quarterback coming out of college than Jalen Hurts was. I said that is Trey Lance rawer than Jalen Hurts? And a lot of people brought up college starts. And that is the case, right? Hurts is a phenomenal leader and he has exceptional game experience. But he did not show anywhere near the refinement Trey Lance did playing from the pocket in college. That's the truth. Now, Trey Lance did it in a smaller sample size, but if you compared it, what Trey Lance did in his sample size, what Jalen Hurts did in his sample size, Trey Lance was a more refined player. That's why Trey Lance was the third pick in the draft. Jalen Hurts was drafted 49th or 50th or wherever he was drafted. Still a high pick, still a really good player. It's just there's a reason that there's that much of a distance between the two players in the draft. Um, should he aspire to be him now? I guess, but that style of offense would drive 49ers fans nuts. The style of offense that Jalen Hurts developed in is the style of offense Justin Fields, frankly, should be developing in. By the way, the guy who's Jalen Hurts' offensive coordinator right now, Shane Steichen, I think he will be a head coach this offseason. He worked with Justin Herbert his rookie season, and then the last 2 years he's been the offensive coordinator in Philadelphia. Ever since he took over the play calling, they did such a great job of tailoring that offense to Jalen Hurts' strengths. The Chargers' first year, I thought Steichen called the offense for Herbert better than Joe Lombardi has called it either of the last 2 years. It was much more tailored to Herbert's strengths. They did a good job running the ball and being consistent with the run game and play action and really pushing the ball down the field with Justin Herbert. So that's a side note. And so in terms of the way they've developed Jalen Hurts, a lot of people get really upset if Trey Lance would be used that way. That's all I'll say. Given everything I've seen on the topic in social media, if Jalen Hurts, the way he was used, if Trey Lance was used that way, especially because they ran a lot of quarterback draw, quarterback power, because Jalen Hurts runs like, it's not insulting to say this even because it's actually a plus, right? He's a quarterback, but he also runs like a running back. He has great vision. He runs behind his pads. He gets low. He does a really good job setting up his blocks. He has a better ability to make people miss than Trey Lance for sure right now as a pure runner. So that would be my take on whether that should be what Trey Lance should be aspiring to be. Trey Lance realistically should be aspiring to be Trey Lance. And I think he is. He's just not getting the opportunity to show that Trey Lance. Unfortunate to him. But hopefully he comes back stronger. My man Jesse, another question. What would you like to see the 49ers do to awaken the offense? I personally want to see them stretch teams horizontally more since Jimmy limits them vertically. I think that's what they'll attempt to do as well. It's just really hard to do that. Team speed is so much better across the board in the NFL. Every defense is fast. Most linebackers in the NFL today run 4.5, right? I remember when I was a kid, and New England still sometimes has these kind of linebackers, but you had the big Brandon Spikes was the perfect linebacker that epitomizes this to me. The big run stuffing linebacker that's, 255, runs 4.8, but is really, really tough and hits people in the run game and can take on pulling guards. Like defense team speed has changed totally throughout my lifetime in the NFL. And I think defenses are playing a lot wider and they're able to stop wide zones specifically quite easily. That's why Shanahan has preferred the faster backs because he wants to get to the edge faster so he can out leverage the edge. And he's also that toss. The entire thing of running wide zone with the toss last year was about getting to the edge faster. Mike McDaniel talked about that. So it's going to be really hard to do this. I think they will do it. I think you got whatever it is in Jimmy Garoppolo, you've got to get that confidence out of him to throw the ball down the field. It's possible to do it. Andy Reid did it for Alex Smith, whether it's giving him clarity with his vision on what he's seeing, because Garoppolo does have certain physical limitations. He's physically incapable of doing certain things, but on time, on rhythm, he's definitely capable of pushing the ball down the field. Every quarterback in the NFL on time, on rhythm is capable of pushing the ball down the field. You just have to bring that out of him. And so I do think that if the Niners would like to maximize their window of success, and now it's tough because Garoppolo is a very average quarterback, but if you want to do that, you got to find a way to bring that out of Garoppolo. There's a great story I remember Chris Sims used to always say when he worked in New England about how Tom Brady, when he came back from his ACL, he was not pushing the ball down the field the same way he was pre-ACL. And New England forced him in training camp to not check the ball down, not throw the ball short, just keep pushing it down the field, taking hits, getting comfortable doing it. And they were able to coach him back into doing that. And so, again, I'm going off of one piece of evidence. I don't know what goes on. I don't know how Shanahan coaches Garoppolo. I don't know how Garoppolo responds to Shanahan's coaching. I don't know any of this. All I'm saying is that I do think that at some point there has to be some sort of push within Garoppolo to get him to do that. Because if he's unable to do that, the Niners once again are going to waste an excellent roster and a phenomenal team and a phenomenal defense with by being ceilinged by Garoppolo. The Ben Skoranek threat real? No. No. Credit to McVay. Ben Skoranek is not a very good wide receiver, not a very talented one. He would not have this kind of success if McVay didn't find this role for him. It's a creative role, especially because they run the football so much out of 11 personnel. It's very, very tough to do that without having a receiver take on the blocking that Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods did, and now Ben Skoranek is, and Cooper Kupp still is. But no, it's not real. Cam Akers is not trash. But yeah, I was definitely wrong about that one. There's no doubt. Did I cut off Blake and Grant? No, did not cut off anybody. I addressed this at the beginning. Blake and I, it just time, we did the show for a long time, but 2 years we ran out of time for the show. I wanted to come back and do it. I have a little more time on my hands right now than Blake. That's all. And then with Grant, I don't have any animosity or anything against Grant. It was just time for me to do something for myself. Jimmy Shanahan drama. I see everybody says this, but they've dealt with drama every season, man. Do you remember 2019, what Chris Mortensen reported before the season about Nick Mullins? Chris Mortensen, one of the most respected reporters, ESPN, been around a long time. He reported that the Niners could have a short leash with Garoppolo. They started the season 8-0. Garoppolo's play was pretty horrible, actually, in a lot of those games. But they started 8-0. Garoppolo played a lot better the second half of the season, and the Niners went to the Super Bowl. But then there was the next season, there was the COVID, there was the Brady drama, all of that. They went through it. Garoppolo got hurt. The entire team got hurt. They went 6-10, I think. 6-10. Then the very next season was last year. They traded all the way up to draft a quarterback after trying to get Matthew Stafford and failing, after inquiring about Deshaun Watson, after doing their due diligence on every single quarterback ever that's been available, right? There was due diligence on Darnold. There was due diligence on Teddy Bridgewater. They were thinking of every quarterback ever in the history of the NFL. And then Garoppolo started. They had the turmoil of having the rookie third overall pick sitting behind him, and they still went to the NFC Championship game. So they've dealt with this drama every single year that they've been together. Hey, dang, that's harsh, young Montana. Oh shoot, look who it is. Look who's in the house. The man himself. Make sure you're subscribing. This is the man himself, Jason Aponte. He and I were doing some commentary on the game on playback. Unfortunately, we won't be doing that this week, but we hope to be back soon. If you enjoyed watching us on playback, make sure you subscribe to the channel of the great Jason Aponte. I don't know what the context of this. I would actually love to respond to the Garoppolo smiling to greet Cam Fleming. I think it's the reality of the situation is, as a professional, especially when you know you have to deal with the media asking you questions 10 minutes after you play in a game that you invest your entire time and livelihood towards. You invest in your entire offseason to build up your body, be ready for the season. You're constantly rehabbing, protecting your body. You're constantly going over, watching film. When you're investing that much time, and yet even then you have to be able to react to the media professionally, I think you learn how to react to losses as well with like an adult, basically. So Garoppolo is probably livid about the loss, but he also understands how to carry himself in that situation, still greet his teammate. His Cam Fleming did nothing wrong to him. Cam Fleming wasn't the reason he pulled a Dan Orlovsky. You have to greet him with a smile on your face. He's your friend, then move on. It's getting very overblown. I think a lot of people are thinking back to, and this is my theory on it. I'm going to go like full on like psychologist Vish right here. And this could be totally off base, but this is my show, so I can say stuff like this. I think a lot of people remember how they felt after losing in sports because they played sports as a kid. So they had a very they had that competitive, and when you're a kid, the outburst of emotion, like people tell you to keep it in. They teach you how to deal with losses as a kid when you're playing sports, but at the same time, the way you react, the maturity you handle it with is like a kid. So they expect NFL athletes to be the same way. Reality of the situation is that when something goes wrong at work today, or you don't do the best on a presentation, you likely feel disappointed, but you're not showing an immediate outburst of anger. You're not scowling. You're not yelling at the next person. They didn't do those things to you. You did those things to yourself. And so you're disappointed in yourself. You're upset. But what's good is showing that the fact that you're upset to anybody else. That's not solving any problems. And I think that's why a lot of people expect NFL athletes to just be livid after the game. Well, when they are livid after the game, Cam Newton, we call them emotional. We say they're soft. We say they're childish. You can't have it both ways. If he handles it like a professional, then don't criticize him for smiling and greeting someone who's his old friend. But then if they don't handle it like a quote unquote professional, don't come at Cam Newton and say, well, he's childish, or he's a sore loser, or those type of things. Who's a sore loser? What does that even mean? It's a lazy comparison, but I'm starting to see it. It's purely in just the energy they play with. Hufanga plays with a similar reckless, I'm gonna throw my body around energy. Like I'm gonna leave it all on the field, similar to Troy Polamalu. And that passion is exceptionally infectious within fans, within other players, and you can see that. But otherwise, no, they're not really a comparison. You know, Polamalu ran 4.3, hit real hard. He was special in coverage. He was a special blitzer. Ufanga's a hell of a player, having a phenomenal season so far. But so I'm trying to get through. If you have any questions, please continue to add them to the chat. I think I'll go on for another 15 minutes or so. So at an hour, I did want to get this. Luis, really appreciate you for donating. I appreciate it a lot. Vish, where have you been? I miss Mondays with Grant. You always bring me back to earth after a game. So first things first, I will be streaming every time now for the rest of the 49ers season on Mondays after a game, and then on Tuesdays if the game's on Monday. And really the plan is to do that because I could do a post game. I think a lot of people would do the post game better than me because they get more emotional and you're looking for an emotional reaction. I think I'm better when I get a day to think about the game, some time to maybe watch it over, watch some of the all 22 if it's out, see what some people have to say about the game, and then just give what I feel happened. Sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong, sometimes it's bad analysis too. But I just feel like that's where I is most comfortable for me. So I will be doing that. And then I miss Mondays with Grant. I addressed all of that at the beginning of the show. So if you would like to go see it there, I don't want to just keep reiterating myself. I'm 30 minutes behind on comments. Yeah, wow. I really appreciate all of you being in here. It's really humbling, and I really enjoy interacting with all of you. Tommy Huxley, my friend, says Brendel is bad. Why didn't we sign a center? So Jake Brendel is not very, very good. So he has not, excuse me, let me rephrase that. Jake Brendel has not played very, very well so far. But I would like everybody to exercise patience. He is starting at center for the first time. The 49ers clearly believe in him. We expect to exercise that patience with other players when they're drafted early. Brendel was not an early draft pick, but I think he should have that patience. And the main reason I actually want to exercise patience with Jake Brendel is this. He has not played well so far, but neither did Alex Mack. The first three games of last season, Alex Mack did not play very well. Javon Hargrave in week 2, when they played Philadelphia at Philadelphia, Fletcher Cox had a good game, but Javon Hargrave dominated Alex Mack. And then week 3, Kenny Clark had his magnum opus. That was the game of Kenny Clark has had a lot of great games in his career, but I'd argue that was maybe the best game Kenny Clark has played. On Sunday Night Football, when they came in and they beat the Niners, the Rodgers, the 2 insane throws, the one on the coverage bust to Adams to set up the field goal, and then the throw before that when he threw a 25-yard layered in cut and dropped it in the bucket in between Fred Warner and Jaquiski Tart to Devontae Adams. Ridiculous throw. But that game, Kenny Clark dominated Alex Mack. And then Alex Mack progressively improved throughout the season. Now, I know I'm comparing an undrafted player in Jake Brendel to an all-pro future Hall of Famer in Alex Mack, but I think the fact that Mack played poorly and improved as the season went on gives you a good opportunity. The one thing I would like people to remember about this coaching staff is they're really good at their job and they're really good at developing players. The Niners don't always start seasons well. I think that stat has been laid out. Besides the 8-0 start in 2019, Shanahan's teams have really struggled early in the season. But the one thing they do is improve as the season goes on. Shanahan does a phenomenal job of improving players, and they do a great job of improving as a team and playing better together. And so I would expect Brendel is going to play a lot better as the season goes on. Now, I don't know what the ceiling of Brendel's play is. Maybe it's just a little more than this. I don't know, but I would expect him to play better. Stuart Damon, I really appreciate your donation. I think you're trying to say this. Walsh would have never gotten his prize pupil QB hurt. He also would have coached up his footwork and throwing technique. Kyle's offense is predictable, boring, and gets his football players hurt. All right. Before I go fully blasphemous, sacrilegious here, am I mistaken? Did I read 49ers history wrong? Did Joe Montana never get hurt with Bill Walsh as his coach? Did Joe Montana not have an elbow injury? Did Joe Montana not have a back injury? It's tough in the NFL. Now, Montana played in an era where you could destroy it and take the quarterback's head off. Am I comparing Walsh's dealings with Montana to Shanahan's dealing of Lance? No. That's not what I'm doing. But it's tough to keep your quarterback healthy in that era in the NFL. In the modern era in the NFL, it's easier to keep your quarterback healthy. But the quarterbacks that stay healthy, you know what they have in common? They know how to protect themselves too. When do you see Tom Brady take hits? He does a phenomenal job protecting himself. He does it with his brain. He knows where to go with the ball. Drew Brees was one of the best we've ever seen protect himself. Manning, Rodgers, Mahomes. Lamar protects himself with his athleticism. When you ever see anybody get a clear free shot on Lamar, it's like Frank Gore. It's hard to hit him. It's hard to hit him square up and get a clean shot on him. So it's really hard to protect yourself in the NFL, right? The best players do it. Now, could Shanahan have done a better job protecting Lance? I certainly buy that. Sure, yeah. It's tough to run your quarterback as much as they did. Now, at the same time, I also believe Shanahan is looking at Lance and trying to do what he feels is the best way to win with Lance. Now, you can compare it on down and distance. You can compare it on when. But at this moment right now, to be able to run the offense most effectively as possible with Trey Lance, the run game needs to be a part of it. Now, I can give two things that I feel about that. That to me is a reality. Here's my opinion on that reality. Two things. Here's my opinion. First, I was disappointed with Trey Lance as a runner, as a member of the 49ers. I don't think he is that special runner. I've seen a lot of people talk about it. Justin Fields is a better runner than him. Kyler Murray's a better runner than him. Josh Allen's a better runner than him. Jalen Hurts is a better runner than him. There's a few guys that I would take over Trey Lance as a runner. I don't think he makes people miss as a runner. He does it as a scrambler pretty well. As a runner, I don't think he does it all that well. I don't think he has great explosion and speed, but I think he's a good runner. So I think you can still run him, right? I don't think he's a great runner. But even with that, the thing I maybe would get on with Shanahan is if running him this much you felt like was the best way to win this year, I acknowledge it. Okay. Then why didn't he start last year? That would be the question I would ask. Okay. I acknowledge that running him this year, okay, fine. That's the best way you can make him win. Why was there that disconnect? What happened in the last year? How did Trey Lance get better as a quarterback, right? Because the entire idea is that you don't want to play him year one. You don't want to subject him to unnecessary hits. You want to play him when he's comfortable within the offense. I've not been able to watch enough of Trey Lance to be able to say what he is or what he isn't. But what I do remember watching in the preseason and all of that is there's still a hesitancy where it comes open in front of him. He's clearly seeing it. It's just about getting comfortable being able to throw it. There's still occasionally where he can miss a throw and you wonder what happened. How did you miss the throw that bad? So all those things that I felt like I saw during Trey Lance's rookie year as well. They didn't play him because they obviously didn't want to play him when all those things existed. Well, he looked like the same raw quarterback in the second year. So why not play him last year? It would be the one question I would ask. And the team was still really good. You were coming off of a 6-10 record. You could have clean swept with and just cut ties with the quarterback that had been injured 2 out of 3 years. And you could have just moved on to the Trey Lance era. Now, what would that have brought? I don't know. Would it have brought an NFC Championship game last year? Maybe. Would it have brought a 6-10 season last year? Maybe. Or 7-10, whatever. Excuse me. Maybe. But that would be probably my one disappointment with Shanahan in the situation is I don't understand the timeline, the thought process, how this works. Well, if you wanted to sit him so that you could protect him better on the field because he would be more comfortable playing, then what happened in that year of sitting him? Was it that his injury regressed him? Well, then why was he having to deal with that finger injury the entire season? There's so many questions. I cannot unfortunately answer them, but those are the questions I have about the situation. I'm trying to get through all these comments. Bear with me. Apologies. Um, this team is doomed with Kyle. Fan base wants Lamar while Kyle only wants a Jimmy G or Kirk Cousins. Just don't run the ball. Just run the ball with Mason overcooked. Okay. Appreciate the donation first, Rhino G, excuse me. Really appreciate you also watching. Appreciate every one of you that's watching right now. The team is doomed with Kyle. I don't necessarily agree with that. Let's start there. Okay, team's doomed with Kyle. Let's get Sean Payton, right? And I've seen Grant put that out. It's a great idea, right? And Sean Payton theoretically is an upgrade over Kyle Shanahan. Theoretically, yes. Sean Payton succeeded with who in the NFL? With Drew Brees. Do I think Kyle Shanahan and Drew Brees could probably have 5 playoff appearances and 1 Super Bowl to show for it? And I think in Shanahan's offense, Drew Brees, I think Shanahan is similarly has an incredibly diverse offense that has answers to every question defenses asks, just like Sean Payton. Do I think Drew Brees could put historic numbers in Shanahan's offense? I don't know if he would have the same passing volume, but I think with Brees' efficiency, with Brees being maybe the most prototypical, mechanically perfect, other than Brady, quarterback we've ever seen where he just reads things the right way. His eyes are always in the right spot. His feet are always in the perfect position. He knows how to move within the pocket. He always knows how to manipulate the pocket and move to the right spot. And he's so accurate and he throws with so much touch. He's so efficient. His release is quick. He has enough pace to get the ball to the outside. All of these things exist with Drew Brees. Do I think Shanahan could have gotten similar success in New Orleans? Possible. It's definitely possible. Then I asked the question, okay, this team is doomed with Kyle. Well, would Sean Payton want to coach Trey Lance? Sean Payton's agent is Don Yee. Sean Payton went to Eastern Illinois University, where Jimmy Garoppolo went. Sean Payton also has been on The Herd, a channel that Colin Cowherd does a good job. He's been very known to be pro Jimmy Garoppolo, and stated multiple times or this season that he thought Garoppolo would start. This was before the Trey Lance injury. So he thought Garoppolo outright could have the ability to start over Trey Lance. And then, we've seen Peyton rave about a lot of quarterbacks on that show. I think that segment is great. Sean Payton is so knowledgeable. He gives so much information. But we don't know if he likes Trey Lance. We don't know if he would want to coach Trey Lance. So you can say this team is doomed with Kyle, but the reality of the situation is Kyle Shanahan traded up for Trey Lance. Kyle Shanahan wanted Trey Lance. Until we see Kyle Shanahan being able to play with Trey Lance, there's a state of flux. Until you know what Trey Lance is, it's impossible to make organizational moves because you are restricting the opportunity for the next person to be able to come and win the Super Bowl if you don't know what Trey Lance is. You have to only get rid of Kyle Shanahan when you know what Trey Lance is because of the investment that's been made into Trey Lance. It's the unfortunate reality of the situation, or is it the fortunate reality? A lot of people want to get rid of Kyle. I'm not one of those people, but unless you see it play out with Trey Lance, it's really difficult to say this team is doomed with Kyle. It doesn't work with Kyle. Bring this person in. So I just wanted to address that entire topic all around. That's where I do miss going on with Grant because I would have addressed it with him, but he does a really, really good job being creative and coming up with these type of topics. I've had people DM me asking about it. I've had people tweet at me with stuff about it. So because of that, or in regards to Sean Payton, I wanted to address that. This fan base wants Lamar. Funnily enough, I said 2 years ago that I thought Lamar Jackson would be the perfect quarterback for Shanahan. He's a great decision maker in between the numbers. He's very accurate in between the numbers. He has quick release. He's good in the quick game. And then the diversity of things you can do in the run game with Lamar Jackson, I think would be ideal for Kyle. They're not getting Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is going to get a fully guaranteed contract somewhere. First of all, will the 49ers be a team that forks out a fully guaranteed contract? I question that. The most guaranteed money they've ever given to a player was to Deebo Samuel this last offseason. So we'll see guaranteed at signing what the Niners would do. But then beyond that, they need their own first round pick to trade for a player who's going to be tagged, which Lamar will be. And then just run the ball with Mason. We'll see. I don't expect him to get a lot of carries this week as well. I think it will be the Jeff Wilson show. But I'd love to be proven wrong. And hopefully Mason plays great when he does get an opportunity. If you guys see any questions that need to be drawn to my attention, please tell me, let me know. But we have 140 people in here, so I really appreciate it. I was going to cut this short at an hour, but it seems like you guys are enjoying it. So if there's a couple more really great questions, I would love to answer them. I would love for you to elaborate on this. What do you mean by he didn't get to know the player he's supposed to develop? Who is my idol? In what sense? My idol. I'd love for an elaboration. Again, this has been asked a lot, so I just want to make sure I'm top of it. I addressed this at the top of the show. And if you could just go back and watch, I don't want to keep readdressing the situation, honestly, because it's not really a situation. I don't want to make it a bigger deal than what it is, basically. So if you could just, go ahead and rewatch from the top of the show. Yeah. Kevin Rendon asks a great question. How far can this defense carry the team? I would say pretty far. This defense is really, really good. It's an elite defensive line with a top 3 or 4 defensive player in the NFL. Nick Bosa is phenomenal. We don't talk about Nick Bosa enough, in fact, because Nick Bosa is exceptionally quiet. He's very, very unassuming. He's just somebody who goes about and does his job. And he doesn't have the loudest sack celebration. It's just that shrug. I wish he had something a little more fun. But Nick Bosa's phenomenal, right? And Fred Warner is playing at a Fred Warner level. So you have those two players, and you say that's two of the best defensive players in the NFL. But then really what makes his defense special is the rest of the players. Ebukam is playing really well. Drake Jackson has shown flashes. Kevin Gibbons has had a hell of a start to the season. Javon Kinlaw has played very well, better than I think a lot of people have been giving credit for. Again, I addressed what I felt Kinlaw had been doing very well that was going under the radar, which was doing a great job having a feel for when screens are coming. And so I think that Javon Kinlaw has played well. So overall, I think the Niners defense has been very good up front, right? The defensive line is really good. I don't think there's an offensive line in the NFC besides possibly a fully healthy Green Bay Packer offensive line that can block this front. So if you're unable to block, and Philadelphia will be able to block them, but I think that this defense would give Jalen Hurts a lot of trouble. And I can explain why if they played Philadelphia, but for right now, I don't think we need to go there. So I think this defense would give Hurts trouble. I think those are the two offensive lines that can maybe handle the front. So if you can't block the defense you're playing, it's really, really tough to beat them. The second reason why I think this defense can carry this team, and it was the one thing I was disappointed that they were unable to do against Denver, is they were finding ways to force turnovers. They're finding ways to get their hands on the ball. Obviously, Talanoa Hufanga's awareness, his just instincts are incredible. It's helped a lot, right? He set up the first pick. Deshaun Gibson's a guy with 28 career interceptions. So he knows how to get his hands on the ball. Hufanga made a great play against Seattle, basically in man coverage against Tyler Lockett. One of the better plays I've seen from a safety all season, in fact. And Gibson got the pick. Hufanga obviously had the pick week one, being the weak hook defender in cover 3 buzz, doing a phenomenal job of reading the quarterback's eyes and finding the ball. It was a really good play. Mooney Ward had the interception of DJ Dallas. So they've been finding ways to get their hands on the ball. And because of that, combined with how weak the NFC is, I do think that this defense can take them really far. In fact, I think this defense is even capable of taking them to the Super Bowl. And the Super Bowl is where I think it becomes tough because you have really well-rounded teams with great quarterbacks. But the way I see it is I think this defense is very much capable of taking them to the Super Bowl. I really do. It's a phenomenal defense. Kev F, excuse me. I really appreciate it, and I love talking football with all of you and interacting with all of you. Tyke says, it was clear from the Chicago game on to Seattle, he was not playing him right away. Let him pass, quit running him like a fullback. It's tough to say again. I would have loved to have seen the Seattle game fully play out and see how it played out. We're ready to jump into conclusions. I think the toughest thing is that Trey Lance got hurt. It's the worst possible thing that could have happened this season for the 49ers and Trey Lance as well. So it's a very unfortunate situation. At the same time, because the situation is unfortunate, because we want to be angry at someone, I think it's very tough to just manifest reasons to be upset in this case, just because at the end of the day, the first game he played in a monsoon, it's very, very difficult to be able to tell, okay, how could you evaluate a quarterback? I sat in that monsoon. The football field is 6 inches underwater. I didn't get any valuable information from anybody on that field other than, wow, Talanoa Hufanga is an exceptional football player. That was my one definitive takeaway from that game. Besides that, I was like, what can I do? The field is 6 inches underwater. So, and then the second game, he gets hurt, 3 drives in. So, again, what was the long-term plan with Trey Lance? We don't know. We didn't get to see it. It's tough to say that. Do I think Womack should play? He has a knack for the ball. Oh, what's up, Ashley? Ashley and I have interacted on Twitter in the past. Also, don't think Ayuk is breaking out the way people want him to. So, should I think Womack should play? Not really. I think Womack is more talented than Lenore, but I thought Lenore was phenomenal versus Denver. Lenore looked like K'Wan Williams versus Denver. He played really, really well. I think Lenore is definitely the better player of the two in the run game right now. And if you're going to put a gap responsibility on the nickel in the run game, which the 49ers do a lot, then I think Lenore is the better option today for the 49ers than Sam Womack. But that doesn't mean anything. Nickel's a tough position to play. Richard Sherman actually tweeted that. And so I do expect Womack still to be the long-term future nickel. But if it's Lenore too, both draft picks, it's not a bad thing. Is Ayuk breaking out that people wanted to? I mean, last game was tough. He's battling Pat Surtain, who's one of the best corners in the NFL, and they were locking him a lot on the backside of 3x1. So it was a lot of pure man, and Surtain is physical. He's a big guy. I still think Ayuk is very good. I think that the breakout was a little bit overblown just because from a number standpoint, it's very difficult for Ayuk to break out given that he is the third option within the offense. I mean, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, they prioritize those two guys in the offense before they prioritize Brandon Ayuk. And then the 49ers are such a run-dependent team, right? They run the ball first. They run the ball in majority of first downs. First downs is usually where you can go play action. You get a lot of softer coverages. Maybe you get a single safety defense, and you can push the ball down the field. And Brandon Ayuk gets free access. Not a lot of linebackers jumping into windows, and he can run those 20-yard read routes. And he can sight adjust. First play of the game, they ran that with Brandon Ayuk. They ran a read route, 20 yards. He can either take it deep. There's a safety deep. He just sits it down at 20 yards. And Garoppolo, it's right there on rhythm. He takes a hitch and then checks it down to Deebo Samuel. That's a 20-yard completion. So because of all of those types of things, I think it's difficult for Ayuk to break out from a statistical standpoint, but I think he's looked very good so far this year. What's up, Jamal? Really appreciate the donation again. You are the man. Can you go in depth on how you think we defend Kupp, Sands, Jimmy Ward? Mosley or Seaward travel. Mosley slit into the slot when Kupp goes inside. I think they're going to double Kupp a lot in this game. Maybe double Kupp more than they've ever doubled him because they've put Jimmy Ward on him in single coverage. Kupp is a hard person to stop. It's really, really hard to defend a receiver who reads leverage as well as Kupp. So he's able to read leverage of the defense and where his own leverage is and create space. And then he has a connection with the quarterback who throws with such incredible anticipation to him. It's really hard to stop that because no matter what, the timing and the accuracy and then the connection between the two players is so good. I think they will double Kupp a lot. I think they will stick to their base defense. They'll try and play zone, but within zones, they'll try to double Kupp. I think that we will see Lenore, I guess, on him. I don't think that Ward or Mosley will travel. I think Kupp is a tough matchup for Ward in general, maybe. Kupp's a tough cover for anybody. Man, it's a good question, Jamal. I wish I had a better idea, but I really, really don't. I think that we'll see. I think D'Amico Ryans will have a creative plan to stop Kupp this weekend. But I wish I knew what it would be. I unfortunately do not. Is Shanny's job on the line if we have a losing season with a healthy Jimmy? Is it on the line in the sense that he could be fired this offseason, or if it's on the fact that there's pressure on him because he would be 7 years in, have a losing season, and a Super Bowl caliber team that has not won the Super Bowl, which is pretty much underachieving. I think that there's no chance he should be fired after this season. But do I think if they have a losing season with Jimmy Garoppolo, there's not a little bit of pressure where, hey, if it doesn't work out in 2023 with Trey Lance, this whole thing could blow up? Possible. I do think Jed York fears blowing it up. John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan have brought so much credibility and stability to the 49ers organization. Their media relations are so much better with those two guys running the team. They have a credibility. They run their organization like one of the better organizations in the NFL. They have a plan, they have a system, they have an idea, they have a philosophy. Every one of those things that, other coaches aren't able to establish, they've established. So I do think that even if they have a losing season and even if 2023 is a disaster, it's going to be very hard for Jed York to cut ties with Kyle Shanahan, barring, just total fan disaster or both of these seasons being filled with disastrous results, disastrous performance, maybe disastrous professionalism. I don't know. But I don't expect that to happen in either season. I just think Kyle Shanahan is too smart. He works too hard. He's too good at his job. I don't think that either of these seasons will end that way. So I've been going here for an hour and 15 minutes. I really appreciate all of you joining. It's so fun to be back on YouTube talking to all of you guys again. I love the interaction. Vish and Ash getting it. Who's Ash? Um, but I'll maybe take one more question if I see a really, really good one. Otherwise, I think I'm gonna stop the stream. It's been a really, really fun stream. It's really good to be back. I love doing this. Please let me know, by the way, in the comments. Please give me feedback on how you would like the streams to be structured, what type of content you would like from me, what I can do to improve. This is my first time doing an individual stream. Whether you think I need to be a little more organized, definitely a possibility. I would agree with that. Do I need to maybe be a little more concise with my delivery? I would agree with that one too. Just let me know what you would prefer and what you're looking for sure in the comment section. I don't really see another question that I think I'm going to take right now. I really appreciate all of you. We had 160 people in here. I think it's a great start for episode 1 of the Vish Kumaran show. I'm going to be back after this game, probably on Tuesday. Tuesday afternoon, I actually have a very cool opportunity. I'm streaming with the 49ers Supporters Club. So it's in partnership with the 49ers. It's what Evan Sowards did last week. Brad Graham did the week before that. John Chapman, 3 phenomenal names, by the way, in Niners content creation. Make sure you're following and subscribing and doing all those things with each and every one of them. But where you interact with the Supporters Club for an hour. I tweeted out the link. You can follow me on Twitter, by the way, at Vish Kumaran right here. Oh, okay. It's on this side. Oh, okay, well, I cannot point to myself right now because of the mirror, and I'm unable to figure this out. So the point is, my label is right here. You can find me streaming there on Tuesday. It's $75 for a year-long subscription to the Supporters Club. I think there's a lot of benefits. It's a great opportunity for 49ers community. I will be back anyway Tuesday evening to be recapping the game. Maybe I will stream Monday night. Let me know. Would you prefer a post-game reaction, or would you prefer just an off the blank, off the dome, just reacting to what happened? Let me know what you would prefer. I don't want to compete at that time because I know a lot of my good friends within Niners content creation and people I really respect, whether it's Grant, whether it's Jason, whether it's, I think, Jesse. I don't think Jesse does a post game show, but I think Jack Hammer does. I think David Lombardi does. All these people do a post game show. I don't want to just compete with each and every one of them so that you can all watch what they have to say too. But if you really want it, I will do it as well. But that would be my hesitant to do it. And plus, I think I would do it better on the next day as well. I think those guys do a way better job harnessing their emotion post game and being able to react with that. I think that for me, I'm more comfortable maybe having a day to collect my thoughts, but really it's whatever you guys prefer. Again, I will be back next week. I plan to stream 2 to 3 times a week. I plan to make this a real thing. Especially if you guys enjoy it, I appreciate all of you guys, and I'll see you guys soon again. Just stay tuned to the YouTube community tab. Stay tuned to my Twitter. I will be active on both of those. Appreciate all of you. Have a great rest of your day. See you next time.